There have been hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of Fnaf Easter eggs. After all, a majority of these dive deep into the Fnaf lore, which is still ongoing even to this day. Ever since the release of 2014, Fnaf has had so many games come out, and of course, with a lot of games being released, you're going to find a lot of Easter eggs. And considering the fact that Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the more confusing and interactive games we've ever seen in recent years, it's no surprise that there's also a lot of Easter eggs hidden around here. But with there being so many, there's of course going to be some that get lost in the trenches. There are going to be some that are either completely abandoned by Scott Cawthon, forgotten, or just not as popular as others, so they kind of get pushed to the back. But that's what I want to look into today. I want to look into some of the Easter eggs that you may have forgotten as a FNAF fan. Disclaimer before we proceed any further in this video, there will be some characters in here that have little to no explanation behind them. As I said, a lot of these characters Scott Cawthon seamlessly abandoned or didn't give any context because they weren't as popular as others, so just prepare yourself for some questions being still unanswered. I wouldn't be doing this video justice if I didn't talk about one of the more infamous FNAF Easter eggs that even you may have forgotten, but was very popular at one point whenever they released. This character is none other than Shadow Freddy. If you're unaware of who it is, Shadow Freddy is a mysterious shadow variant of Freddy Fazbear that appears in the second FNAF game. His origin is unclear, and his appearances are generally limited due to them being Easter eggs. Shadow Freddy originally appeared in the second Five Nights at Freddy's game. When you would check on the storage camera in the parts and service room, you would see that Bonnie, whenever he had eventually left his position, you see Shadow Freddy appear right here. Now, as you can see, this is definitely Freddy Fazbear, but it's not the one that we're accustomed to seeing. This one has a very darkish, purplish texture to him. His eyes and teeth are completely white and definitely sticking out from there. And other than that, there really isn't anything obvious that you could see from here outside of the fact that, whoa, it looks like a purple Freddy. He does no damage to you in this game. In fact, there's no really specific way to summon him, and he doesn't kill you. He doesn't affect you whatsoever. He really just appears in the parts and service room every now and then. He has very striking resemblance to Golden Freddy with his withered appearance. However, unlike Golden Freddy, the difference is that he has very large glowing eyes, whereas Golden Freddy doesn't have any at all. In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Shadow Freddy lacks the glowing white effects for his eyes and teeth. Instead, his colors are strictly dark green compared to the Phantom animatronics. Outside of his appearances in those two games, there isn't really many other ones out there. He does appear in Ultimate Custom Night, Help Wanted, and even FNAF World, but I don't really consider that canon. It is, but I don't really consider it because those are kind of just games. I'm talking about the original 4 or 5 games out there. So what exactly is Shadow Freddy? Well, we still don't know. There really isn't an explanation for this. The best we can think of is that whenever Scott Cawthon introduced this character in the second Five Nights at Freddy's game, not only did he introduce Shadow Freddy, he also introduced Shadow Bonnie, where Shadow Bonnie is a completely black figure that represents Toy Bonnie, and all you can see is his glowing white eyes and glowing white teeth, very similar to Shadow Freddy. Well, in the earlier days of Five Nights at Freddy's, Bonnie was a much more popular character than Freddy Fazbear was. In fact, Bonnie was the most popular character in the FNAF world. So it makes sense that a lot of people were following along with Shadow Bonnie compared to Shadow Freddy. Shadow Bonnie got merchandise, he got a little backstory behind him, he made more appearances that lasted longer, and all in all, Scott Cawthon put a little bit more into Shadow Bonnie compared to Freddy. So why didn't he do that for Freddy? Well, like I said, he really wasn't critically acclaimed as much as Bonnie was, and if nobody really liked a certain character amongst a video game, well, then what's the point of even having him to begin with, honestly? So after the second Five Nights at Freddy's and obviously these little appearances here and there isn't anything really known about this character. And like I said, he is somewhat hard to summon. His movements are completely random whenever he pops up in the parts and storage room, and he has literally no effect on the game whatsoever. So it doesn't really surprise me that he wasn't very popular, but I am kind of disappointed that Scott Cawthon didn't put a little bit more into his story. I would have liked to know, what the hell really even is this? The design for this character is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love it. And the fact that it appears in the parts and storage room and you can only see it through the flashlight is crazy compared to Shadow Bonnie appearing in your office just popping up in the top left corner. That's honestly the craziest part, but we still don't know anything about Shadow Freddy. And like I said, he was abandoned by Scott, so I don't expect to see any more context surrounding him. I honestly think it would take just a few minutes out of his day to explain it, but I'm not going to rush the guy or anything into doing that. So for right now, he's just going to be a forgotten Easter egg that nobody really cares about and nobody's really going to be talking about. We are going to stay in the train of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 because there are quite a few Easter eggs in here that you have forgotten about containing the second game. This other one right here is going to be Indo 02. If you're very unfamiliar with him, let me clue you in. Indo 02 is an endoskeleton that was designed for some of the withered animatronics that you see in the second Five Nights at Freddy's game. His backstory is pretty much unknown and it is very unclear as to which endoskeleton costume he was being made for. A lot of fans presume that it was Foxy's endoskeleton due to the fact that his ears are pointed more to the right and Bonnie is the only animatronic that has his ears pointed in that exact same direction. This is the second iteration of an endoskeleton, this Indo 02. The original endoskeleton right here, as you can see in the original Five Nights at Freddy's teasers, if you ever saw something in the corner that looked like an endoskeleton, that's because it was. This was Indo 02. This was the original endoskeleton that we saw for Five Nights at Freddy's. So Indo 02 is a new iteration of it. The way you see Indo 02 is in the prize counter area. Whenever you're going wind up the music box, if you don't do it in time and the marionette's coming after you, you could check in the prize counter and you may see him coming out of there. There are also some times where you see him inside the vents. There was a sound that was taken out of the second Five Nights at Freddy's game that was supposed to represent his movements in the vents, which were a little bit different. Check it out right here. You can see, or hear, I should say, you hear a little bit of a different sound compared to the original animatronics. This one you can hear the metal clinking amongst the boards and there, and it sounds a little bit different. So, who exactly does he take over? Like I said, it is presumed to be Foxy. However, his eyes resemble withered Freddy, so it's pretty much unknown exactly. Much like Shadow Freddy, there's little to no information regarding him at all, and outside of his appearance in the second Five Nights at Freddy's game, he only appears in two other games, which is Help Wanted and Security Breach. Much like in the second Five Nights at Freddy's, in Help Wanted, he's an Easter egg. However, in Security Breach, he is a part for the Blob right here. But other than that, there isn't a lot known about this character and who exactly he takes over. Unlike Shadow Freddy, he does have more movements around the game, but very similarly to him, he does not have any effect on the game at all, and he cannot kill you. If anything, he serves as a distraction from the task at hand that could, I guess, help kill you in the end, but that's really just nothing. Right here, we're just going to kind of dive into exactly who we think the endoskeleton could be. A lot of the people think it's Foxy, and I could kind of agree with that. But if we're going to look into it, the eyes texture is a really big go-getter for me because that, I think, would represent the character perfectly. And this has withered Freddy. So potentially this could just be Freddy Fazbear with the ears pointed down. I'm not really sure. I'm willing to believe it's Freddy Fazbear, but it could very well be Foxy. But outside of that, like I said, there isn't a whole lot known about this character. His physical appearance seems to be much more detailed than the original endoskeleton. His body was designed with 6 metal ribs and discs to help fill out the plush suit. It has cylinder limbs with spiral wings, a wide open mouth with squarish teeth, flat 3-toed feet. Its overall appearance bears a striking resemblance to withered Foxy's endoskeleton due to its nearly identical body structures, with the ears of the exact same shape but facing in a different way. Indo 2 also has hazel blue eyes that are similar to withered Freddy's, like I said. From the second game, its head is designed to feature tiny connective wires containing wires from inside parts of the limbs and a bundle of long wires that can be seen connected between the lower ribs and pelvis. Outside of being a slight upgrade to the original endoskeleton, there's really nothing special about this character, and that's probably one of the reasons why Scott Cawthon somewhat abandoned him and didn't give him any kind of backstory whatsoever to it. There really isn't anything to this character. In fact, I think he just added it in the game, just give a little fear factor. He is very tall and honestly quite creepy looking, but other than that, there's no scare factor to him. There's no jump scare related to him. Hell, he even took the only sound that he made out of the game. So it shows you that Scott Cawthon probably didn't intend to have him in the game and was kind of a mistake. This next Easter egg is something that you may have forgotten, but is also in the second Five Nights at Freddy's game, and that is Balloon Girl, also known as JJ. JJ is a female version of Balloon Boy, appearing as an Easter egg and a hallucination in the second Five Nights at Freddy's game. Much like the other Easter eggs in this game, they cannot harm you nor kill you whatsoever and have little to no effect on the game outside of distracting you. Balloon Girl will appear at the bottom part of your office. You see, when the second game originally came out, a lot of people were speculating who this character was. And obviously the first thing everybody thought was that it was Balloon Girl, the little sister or whatever of Balloon Boy. And that was later confirmed by Scott Cawthon, even having a name called JJ. Now, we don't really see anything outside of this little appearance in the second game of JJ, but we do get more of her in a couple other games. We see her in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, Ultimate Custom Night, and most notably in Fnaf World. You see, in the second Fnaf game, the only clip or anything we got to see of her was her eyes or hair popping up at the bottom part of the desk. However, in Fnaf World, we got to see an entire body shot right here of what she may look like. And of course, she has a striking resemblance to Balloon Boy. We got to see a little bit more of her actually in Ultimate Custom Night. We saw the signature hiding under the desk, but then we also see him right here. Now, she doesn't have any arms or legs right here because she's obviously in the vent. And this right here, we see a full face shot as she appears under the desk trying to sneak in. Really, the only difference between her and the second game and Ultimate Custom Night is the fact that she has pink eyes and a pink nose instead of pink cheeks. She has blue cheeks and she has a sports blue propeller. Other than that, there really isn't any difference regarding Ultimate Custom Night or Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator compared to the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 game. Now, I'm not sure what the role was supposed to be in here or if it opened the door to potentially a different Balloon Boy / Balloon Girl character. I mean, obviously it did, but I'm not sure of Scott Cawthon's initial intentions amongst that game. And Five Nights at Freddy's 2 just had so many animatronics and so many different things just trying to kill you in the game that Scott Cawthon may have had a very hard time keeping up with it. After all, whenever you play Night 7, there are literally 10 animatronics that you could set to come after you at some point in time. So I'm sure Scott got a little lost in the woods right there when discussing and thinking about other animatronic characters. But like I said, she does open the door to different games like Fnaf World Pizza Simulator. Obviously, this character looks a little harmless, and she can't harm you in the second Five Nights at Freddy's game, and it's really just a complete iteration of Balloon Boy, but just as a girl form. But she really wasn't that popular whenever she first released. If anything, I feel like she was kind of forgotten by the fan base. Clearly not by Scott Cawthon, as he intended to do a little bit more with her, and that's why he put her in a bunch of the other games out there. But in terms of the original FNAF games and the serious ones out there, not a lot is known about this person outside of her name. So this one was a little forgotten, but nevertheless, still a very infamous character amongst the FNAF world. Now, these next couple of Easter eggs that you may have forgot about come from the original Five Nights at Freddy's game. We're going to look right here at the original fifth night phone call. As you're all aware by now, the phone guy only talks to you in the first 4 nights, but if you remember correctly, this was the fifth night's phone call. Well, it sounds like a big clusterfuck of just words right there. It was originally theorized that that was the first night's phone call, a little bit reverbed and also sped up really fast. But that turns out not to be the case whatsoever. This is actually a quote of a reading from a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. I'll leave the quote up right here so y'all can read it and take the time to do that whenever you want. So right here, this is the quote that comes from that book. The fans linked up the word joy of creative to joy of creation, thinking that this was just a theory or just a Easter egg for that game. But that's not the case whatsoever at all. If anything, this quote means a lot more, has a deeper meaning to it, involving the lore of the original Five Nights at Freddy's game. You see, the creator of the book was talking with the scientists about inventions that were coming out, and the author believed that this should be put out to the public, that way people can use them for generational beneficial uses. But the scientists obliged that idea and said that he shouldn't be releasing it out there to the public because future generations will just abuse the privilege and they won't get the recognition that they deserve. Now, what exactly does that mean in terms of Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, if we look at a little bit deeper into here, we can see the two creators of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is Henry Emily and William Afton. Now, if you look at these two characters, they both have completely different motives. You can see Henry Emily just wants to make beautiful characters that will enlighten children's worlds and make it a nice little pizzeria place, whereas William Afton wanted to make all these inventions and everything for his own personal gain and wanted to make money off of this in just his own sick and evil twisted ways. As you can see right there, there's a pretty big connection compared to what the quote that Scott Cawthon put into the game to the actual lore behind it. This is actually very, very creative, and it's an Easter egg that not a lot of people even remember or even took the time to dig into, honestly. I was one of those people, and I didn't even know this actually existed out there. For the longest time, I thought that the Night 5 phone call was, like I said, just Night 1's phone call, except sped up and reverbed so we couldn't hear the pronunciation of what's being said. But Scott Cawthon's a little bit smarter than that, people, and he definitely pulled the rug out from beneath us whenever he put out this quote out there. So, thumbs up to Scott Cawthon. Congrats on that one. You fooled a lot of people, honestly. And the man, the mystery himself, did it once again. So good job, Scott Cawthon. The next Easter egg that you may have forgotten about is definitely one of the more earlier ones out there. You see this image right here. This is the icon that you see for whenever you download the game, either on iOS or off of Steam. It is a close-up of Freddy Fazbear's head. And there's nothing to it, right? Am I right? Well, wrong. You see, way back in the early days of the original Five Nights at Freddy's game, if you enlighten the image a little bit, you can see a couple green marks on Freddy's face right here. Now you can see what looks to be either a footprint or a handprint, as well as something on the bottom part of Freddy's chin. Now this is not explained what exactly this is. This may just be a little glitch. This could have been an added effect, or it may not even be real at all. Nevertheless, it was very popular when the game originally came out, and a lot of fans theorize that this may have been the hand of the child that was bitten from the bite of 87. However, this theory, of course, was debunked whenever we saw what the actual bite of 87 was when you play the fourth Five Nights at Freddy's game. However, this little Easter egg was still out there. Like I said, some people believe that it was fake, and some people didn't think it was Scott Cawthon that added it in here, but I fully believe that this was Scott Cawthon's work. Like I said, he literally snuck in a quote that had a connection to the original two creators of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and none of us even noticed it. So everything that you see in this game, every little piece and character has a place and also has a backstory behind it. I don't know the whereabouts of this one because it was never explained, but I could see why a lot of people theorize that this was a child's hand right here. You can see the thumb, and you can even see the 4 fingerprints right here, and you can see something at the bottom of the chin. Now, it does look like that this child may have just gotten on the show stage and just grabbed Freddy by the face, or maybe Freddy picked this child up and was trying to do something with him. I have no idea, and we still to this day don't know exactly what it was, but this was a genius move by Scott Cawthon because this automatically put the fans right on their feet at the earlier stages of this game. Like I said, in 2014, we had little to no context surrounding any of the lore that had the original Five Nights at Freddy's in it, so you could see where some of the theories and the speculation was way out of left field for this game. This next Easter egg is going to be something that a lot of people had forgotten about, and I definitely did myself. Whenever you go on Night 7 in the original game, which is also known as Custom Night, if you put in 1987, which is a 1 by Freddy, a 9 by Bonnie, an 8 by Chica, and a 7 by Foxy, and you click Ready Up, you will get the Golden Freddy jump scare, which as you can see is this right here. While it does end up crashing your game and all that, it is still a very unique and cool little asset that we added to the game that a lot of people speculated, of course, that Golden Freddy was the bite of 87, the original Freddy Fazbear was the bite of 87. There was a lot going on about the bite of 87. If anything, Scott Cawthon adding that into the game completely put that on its back, and not a lot of people knew what it was, but we had some pretty wild theories out there. Like I said, if you put this in Custom Night, you get the Golden Freddy jump scare. Not too big of an Easter egg, but just a little something for Scott Cawthon to put out there. I'd say the final Easter egg that a lot of people forgot even happened was an incident that occurred after the original 420 mode was beaten. Way back in the earlier stages of the development of Five Nights at Freddy's, whenever Scott Cawthon was making Custom Night, he purposely made 420 mode to be obviously the impossible mode out there. This was a mode that even he could not beat himself and did not think that anybody out there would be able to pull off. However, there was a YouTuber that went by the name of Big Bug, and he uploaded a video titled Five Nights at Freddy's World's First 420. This was uploaded on August 20th, 2014. This was uploaded not even an entire 2 weeks after the game was released. So him being able to beat this was quite the accomplishment. And the description for his video lists, after 23 hours at about 170 tries, the devil and his minions were finally defeated. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Scott Cawthon, figured out that this guy completed this mode and went to go and comment on his video. This says, "It's because of this run that I added a 3rd star on the title screen for this accomplishment. I really didn't think it was possible. I can't even do it." And after this, anytime you would beat 420 mode in the original Five Nights at Freddy's game, you would get a 3rd star added to there. The 1st star being completed in the first 5 nights, the 2nd star completed the 6th night, and the 3rd star representing that you defeated the impossible 420 mode. This was quite the accomplishment by Big Bug, defeating this just 12 days after its initial release date in 2014, and even getting Scott Cawthon to praise you for that. Man, what a W for Big Bug. Am I right? Obviously, not long after this, we saw Markiplier do it, Jacksepticeye do it, all the big YouTubers out there were doing it. Right now, it's pretty routine, but Big Bug developed a method to find a way to beat it, which was a way that a lot of other people use and still to this day can still get you through it if you're trying to play 420 mode. But Scott Cawthon adding this 3rd star into this game was supposed to be kind of an Easter egg because he didn't expect everybody to actually do it. And whenever Big Bug finished it, he obviously said right here, no special ending though. He must have thought that it was going to be some drastic ending, but hey, well, he didn't get that ending. He did get that 3rd star. And he also got a comment by Scott Cawthon. And that's all that matters in the end, am I right? And that's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed hearing some of these forgotten FNAF Easter eggs, please make sure to hit that like button. Consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot. We just hit over 4,000 subs, and that is absolutely awesome. I love you guys so much. You're the sole reason that I'm doing any of these videos. The fan base is growing, and I absolutely love that. And if you like what you see, make sure to leave that like I said, and also leave a comment down below for maybe the next video you want me to make. I'm open